if you've seen my video where I talk about losing my job because I didn't understand the hierarchy thing, the hierarchy thing meaning that I did not realize that it was my job to make my superiors feel important in the way that I communicate and relate with them. That's the unspoken thing that a lot of autistic people don't get. But I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened with a friend of mine just a couple of days ago. I haven't seen this friend for a couple of weeks, and she came over and sat down and just started kind of immediately needing to get out this stressful stuff that's been happening at work for her. And it's a new job. And of course, she's talking about how hard she's working and she's up late and she's redoing this and she's putting all this effort in. And for some reason, she's finding that they're treating her different and they're not liking her. And so I'm listening to this story, kind of letting her process it and get it out. But the whole time I'm just sitting here like, okay. And then finally I go, okay, I know, I finally know what's happened. As we were talking, she was like, oh my God, this is like what happened in my last job. And she starts putting all these dots together. One thing that happened in her last job is that she was telling me about one morning where she was just in her head thinking about stuff. And she walked by, one of the big wigs and her manager, and they were talking. She just walked by and didn't say anything. So later on that day, her manager comes and talks to her because apparently the bigwig was like, I'm getting tired of her. He says, you really need to smile and ask him questions. And of course, she was very confused by this. But as she was telling me, I'm like, see, that's what you didn't do. That's what you didn't know was part of your job description. That's not, it's like in invisible ink where when you were in your head and you walked by, that was you treating him like anyone else. She took her manager's advice and asked him questions and smiled next time she saw him, and he was a lot nicer to her. As we're talking about this job, I'm like, okay, you've got this new job. So, I'm going to tell you this, and this is the truth, and this is the facts based on what you've told me. And I know not every job is like this. I'm talking about people who understand that they're in a culture that works like this. Specifically, it's for those cultures. I told her, I said, listen, this whole thing with you telling them that you've got a better idea and that they're wrong, I'm like, yep, that's going to end up getting you fired. And she was just like, and I'm like, feel that. It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. But I said, here's what you've got to get in your head. The good news is, number one, you can turn how hard you work down by 40%. You're not going to impress them with the merit of your work. So now you can find other things to do with your time. And you don't have to spend, the 14 hours hyper-focus solving one of your work problems. I said, you can know this and start looking for something else that's a better fit or start your own business. And those are pretty much the options. I said, but if you want to keep this job and you want to keep this paycheck, then you're going to have to turn that down and you're just going to have to agree with them and you're going to have to not give a crap how well the company does, even though you're going to sit there in your head and know that you can do things better. You're just going to. But I was like, once you can get into that space, I was like, and you're like, oh, my job is to do this and not this. We work better when we've got clear spoken instructions. The next day, she texts me and she's like, oh my God, I just got out of a sales meeting. She's like, I bit my lip when they were talking about stuff. And I didn't say the thing and I just agreed. And lo and behold, it's like a 180. She's like, it was like magic on how differently they're responding to me. One of the reasons I'm sharing this is I get that it's frustrating. I wouldn't be able to do it. And I told her that. I was like, I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to go into a place and not do my best. But also, I understand that there's a lot of autistic people that are in situations like this and they can't just quit their job. They can't just go find the ideal situation. So I'm making these videos in an effort to say that once the shock wears off and then you go, oh, I get what my job is and what it isn't. I'm hoping that this will help, because the last thing you need is to be stuck in a place where you're doing an amazing job and you're working your ass off and you can't figure out why there's people that are just frustrated and hating you. And for those of you in management that are bringing out the best in people, that's amazing. And for those of you who are in jobs where you don't have this BS to deal with, that's also amazing. If you are in here, this little shift in how you look at it can maybe turn the volume down on the stress level that you're experiencing. And that is my intention with this. I also have another video that I'm going to make that I have had some big ahas about social cues. This is kind of part of it. And I'm making sure I have all the pieces for that one, but this is part of it. It's like the social cues are the unspoken thing that you're supposed to know so that you can react appropriately. And there are reasons why our brains don't do that. I'll go into specifics really soon. But anyway, I hope this helps. I know this is upsetting. Please don't shoot the messenger. I'm just trying to help.